Hey everybody, it's Mary Z back once again for Voice Hacks. Today I am going to explain a singer, not so much react. A lot of you have noticed that I'm not really looking at these videos for the first time because I want to teach you guys something about what they're doing. I'm a voice teacher. It's what I'm dedicated to doing. And so I want to show you a little bit more than just making faces at a reaction. But today we are going to take a look at an artist that you have requested. A lot of you have requested this artist. It's something that I wasn't that familiar with. So honestly, earlier today when I was first watching it, it was really hard for me not to get kind of overwhelmed. It was a really amazing performance. Today we are going to look at Dimash Kudaibergenov. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So he goes by Dimash. A lot of people just call him by his first name. He's a singer from Kazakhstan, and he became famous on a Chinese audition kind of singer idol show, those types of competitions. What's really crazy about this guy is his exceptional vocal range, his unbelievable mastery, and combination of multiple vocal styles. I think we'll just let you take a look. And the funny part is the clip that I have is from one of these contest shows, and right where I wanted to start it, the camera is on two competitors who their faces, it's in the middle of the song, so their faces are like, they're like, oh my God, we're so screwed because we'll never be able to beat this guy. And it's kind of true. So here we go. Okay, that's super intense. It's hard for me to watch that without getting a little choked up. I don't want to get verklempt here, but I have to say that this is pretty incredible. There's a lot of things going on here. So first of all, part of why I don't just blankly react to things is I want to know more information about the singer. I always want to know, like, are they trained? What is their full vocal range? I want to do a lot of research when I'm looking into these things. So what I found out about Dimash is his highest recorded note is a D8. You heard that correctly, a D8, which is absolutely insane. And that his lowest recorded note is C2. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means he has 6 octaves of notes. For those of you who are new to music theory, that means like 6 scales, kind of, if we could put it in a simpler term, 6 scales worth of notes from low to high, 6 groupings of 8 notes across a piano. And that's ridiculous. So I want to tell you, I've been a voice teacher for over a decade and taught hundreds of people. I've never had a person with even a 5-octave range. So what's the deal? Why haven't I? Why can't everyone just have this kind of note range? First of all, we saw an incredibly wide range of notes throughout this. That's number one. We had a wide range of notes. We also have a wide range of styles that he's doing and a wide range of volume dynamics that he's doing in this song. So let's start with the notes. The reality is that most of the folks that I've taught, just as a case study of hundreds of people that I've given lessons to, almost every adult person that I've ever taught has around a 3 to 3.5 total octave vocal range. This is like the norm average. And if you look up like range charts of famous singers, you'll find that there are way, way fewer singers in the extreme octave ranges and a whole lot in the middle octave ranges, like between 2 and 4 octaves. And so our voice range is generally dependent upon where those octaves start and end. So as you guys know, if you've been following me, I have a low voice, which is unusual for a female. I have my 3 octaves and a little bit more. I have sometimes a little bit extra of range that I have available to me. It just starts in a very low place, right? Like a tenor. And so based on where your octaves start and end, we'll name you like soprano, high, mezzo soprano, medium, alto, low. If we're men, will be tenor, bass, baritone, countertenor. If we're really high, we'll divide it into voice ranges. But the weird part is that every once in a while, like we've talked about, there is the freak of nature. And I don't mean to call anyone a freak. I don't mean that in an insulting way. I just mean in a miraculous way, sort of, where we some people in this world are just gifted to have a particular set of vocal folds that transcends the range of the average human. Just like some athletes are gifted to have a body type like that. Even if you look at all the players in the NFL or the NBA, there's always 1 or 2 people that have an exceptional body type. The rest of the people fall within a certain range of professional athlete for that position or whatever their role is. That's kind of how our voice works too. You're going to always have like a few professional singers that are just ridiculous and have a crazy range. And another crazy thing is that when I've been teaching, the widest ranges I've ever had of anyone I've actually taught has been about 4 octaves. And the only folks I've taught who've had 4 octaves have been baritones, what I would call baritones, because their range went as low as this guy, as Dimash's, around C2 or D2, which is also the bass's lowest note. But why wouldn't we call someone a bass? Because even though a person like Dimash can sing down to that low, the timbre, the vocal color, is all wrong to be a bass. A bass is a very specific color, and also, again, they're going to have a little bit smaller range than a baritone. Just in general, Dimash is like beyond being just a baritone or a tenor or a countertenor. He's kind of everything. Once you're into having like more than 4 octaves, you really have transcended a set voice type. We're going to say that. But my baritones have had up to 4 octaves, about 50% of them. And I really have never seen that. I've had maybe 1 soprano who had about 4 octaves. Otherwise, I really don't see that in too many other voice types. Why not? Because typically the length and the width of our vocal folds kind of sets the overall tuning in stone, just like a stringed instrument. It's really strange because when we sing, the movement is somewhat opposite of that. If you think of a bass stringed instrument, bass guitar, or a bass upright bass, a stringed instrument for an orchestra, versus a violin or a regular guitar, we can see that in physics, in tuning and strings, that the longer the string is, the longer the fiber is, the lower the frequency is possible that we can vibrate with it. Also, the thicker the string, the wider the string. The vocal folds are a little bit more than length and width, though. They are 3-dimensional. There is a thickness element. So there is a number of combinations of length, width, and thickness that can result in similar voice ranges. However, in general, men's vocal folds do lengthen at puberty quite a significant amount, and we can really hear the difference in pitch when that happens as they age and as they turn from child more into an adult. And if the person's voice ends up being higher, it doesn't really lengthen as much. So what I have deduced from teaching people and kind of seeing about whose voices have the widest ranges, I would say that the reason why someone like Dimash has such a huge range is because he has an unusually long set of vocal folds. And I'm guessing that they probably are kind of thin as far as the width goes. And I think that would kind of match a certain string that could have a similarly wide range. Again, though, it's very tough. This is just me deducing based on my own experience of teaching. Also, to other folks that have this wide of ranges, we see more baritone vocalists in this category, even under the freak of nature category. People who have over 5 octave ranges, people like Corey Taylor, Villavallo, Mike Patton, these people sing just about as low as a baritone in their low end. So once again, they kind of have this length of chord that we're looking at here, where they're able to access these low notes, but their chords are not so fat like a bass that they can't sing high. They can sing quite high if they're thinned out a little bit. So I think it's a combination, a very, very specific combination of length and thickness, and we see it more in baritone vocalists and in males, not because women can't have this, but because it is rarer for a woman to have a longer set of vocal folds. Even me with my low voice, you can see from not having an Adam's apple, the hyoid bone lengthens when the vocal folds lengthen in puberty in males. They do not really in females. A very small amount, enough to make you sound like an adult. About 3 millimeters versus men, it's like 10. There are some women who do have crazy ranges, Diamanda Glass, but it's just a little bit even lower percentage just because of the physiology of what happens to us in our puberty stage. It has nothing to do with your ability or anything like that, ladies. What I would say to you as a singer is work as hard as you can to see where your ends are. But if you get to your 3-octave limit and you simply can never train and get any further than that, it's not you. It's just, we can't all be superheroes. So the second thing that he's doing is he is a master of technique. The other thing I found out is obviously this is an incredibly trained singer who, although he's very young, he has a lot of training. He is trained in classical singing, he's trained in modern singing, and he just didn't go out there and magically do all this stuff. So first of all, I'm always saying hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And what I mean by that is he could be born with the chords of having this crazy octaves, right? However, if he didn't work his butt off on his techniques, then he would not be this good still. Honestly, you could be born with a lot of natural talent, but if you don't work to control it and command it, it doesn't give you much value, right? Same thing with people who aren't born with as much natural talent. Sometimes we can work hard and make up for it to a point. Again, there are some things we can't do, like add octaves to our voice like this, make ourselves have 6 octaves. We can't necessarily do that, but we could work on all these styles and combine them and get a similar level of flexibility. Although I would say his control is quite tremendous. You'd have to work pretty hard to get this good. One of the things that he's doing in his upper range is he's learned from his classical training to classically sing like a mezzo-soprano or a countertenor, which in the classical world, many countertenors, they don't sing like pop countertenors in their mixed voice, like Justin Timberlake. I just want to love you. They sing straight vertical. They sing purely operatic, like he does in a lot of sections. He uses mixed voice in this song, and he uses belting. He uses all 3 of what I would call tone placements, classical, mixed, and belting. But in his purest classical sound, he is really, really using proper techniques similar to an operatic countertenor. You may remember Andrew De Leon from America's Got Talent a few years ago, the goth operatic countertenor. That's how a lot of male countertenor vocalists would sing in purely classical music. And a lot of them that are countertenors, or a case like this, where they have a wider range than a countertenor, we would just call them a falsettist. I think we would regard Dimash as a falsettist, right? Rather than a countertenor, because his range exceeds that of a countertenor. But whatever you call it, some of these folks who do their opera, the men that do their opera in the countertenor range like this will just call themselves male mezzo-sopranos. Sometimes it's their preference what they choose. He can also access his flute register like a coloratura, and then he also, in some of his high notes, he'll go into a pure straight tone mixed voice, which is placed kind of right here. Check out my mixed voice series of videos if you kind of want to see some tutorials about how to do that. That would be more of like the falsetto we're used to hearing, which is pop and rock. And then he starts this clip that we watched in pure belting. Some of you call that chest voice, so we think of that as our rock singing, like a forward placement. A lot of things are happening in here to make these happen. Watch some of my videos. A lot of it has to do with the way our larynx is moving, the way our epiglottis is moving, all these things to change these styles. But really, we don't do that. We don't learn to control that through moving things. We don't think like, Dimash is not up there thinking, I'm going to move my epiglottis just a little bit for this and my larynx for that. It doesn't work like that. You learn to control this through your sounds, through placement, through your vocal technique, and through learning how to access the different parts of your range and what technique you need to use to get at those sections, where certain notes resonate. He's also matching a lot of his placements to his certain parts of his range. So you notice as he goes up, he doesn't bother to try to continue to belt, to use his chest voice. He's perfectly comfortable with flipping out of it and letting his more feminine sounds come out at the top. But it doesn't matter. A lot of my male students who have high voices, are kind of feel like man-shamed or masculinity shamed, if you will, for not having a more manly voice or whatever. This is a very beautiful voice. The most popular voice type that we have. Think about how many high male voices are in the tops of the charts. Think about Justin Timberlake, Adam Levine, The Weeknd, John Legend. We have lots and lots and lots of high voices in the charts. They're extremely popular. So guys, don't let, society kind of shame you into not using your high voice. You can see when you really control it, it's gorgeous. And it doesn't make this person seem, any less masculine or whatever. He's got a talent and he's using it. So because he's not afraid to flip out of his chest voice and go into his falsetto, he's able to use more of his range. And I would encourage you as a male vocalist, if you're watching, to do that. If you don't be afraid of it, if you have some of that high end, because again, people like hearing it. Don't let it be something that makes you feel ashamed or anything like that. Feel free to go for it. So you can see he belts on his lower notes. He'll mix more towards the middle and go straight operatic for the high. And that is one of the biggest keys to being a person who does all three placements in one song, is not only being a master at all three and training on all three and taking lessons on all three, you have to match it kind of to where they fit in your range as well. He's not trying to opera sing a little too low. He's just kind of going with the placements that fit a little bit more naturally with his voice. I want you guys to realize how extremely good this is and how much work went into this performance, and not just being a person who had an amazing range, but he put the time in. So please be aware that if you work hard, you're going to see a lot of improvements in your voice. Start with my playlists right here on YouTube. Intro series, if you're a total noob, you don't know anything. I've got classical, mixed, and belting in the playlist. So you can kind of start learning all three if you want. If you're having a hard time on your own, then it's time to invest in some lessons. Sometimes it's not very realistic to learn things from a few videos, guys. We can't just teach ourselves everything. That's why my full-time job is teaching people how to sing. Email me at voicehacks@gmail.com. I teach lessons on Skype to students all over the world every week. So you can email me and maybe we can get you set up with something. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, everybody, for your follows. We finally hit 30,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate all your sharing and all your comments. Let me know who you want to see next, and I'll be bringing some more videos to you ASAP. Thanks, everybody.